So today we are talking to Hongwei Tang, a creative technologist based in Vienna. So before we get started, let's start with a quick introduction. Like, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. My name is Hongwei. I'm a creative technologist, but I do basically a lot of things in the creative industry because I don't want to limit myself, because I think being a freelancer, you can really explore all fields, because on the end of the day, everything connects together again in some new formats. Yeah, that's basically what I do.
So for people who don't know what a creative technologist is, could you just describe what that means? Because I feel like it's a term that not everyone is familiar with.
Yeah, I think I have been struggling myself with which like job position I'm like into, because uh let's break it down. I have a background in graphic design, I have a background in photography, I have a background in creative coding or coding in general. I do like audiovisual projection mapping, and through all the disciplines, I have seen that I have always worked with technology in a way to solve some creative issue or some creative project. So I felt like this was the most appropriate term for what I'm doing. I think it's more and more changing now again, because there are now new jobs coming in, especially in the field of AI. So maybe I will slightly adapt it again, but I'm also not fixed on this term. I think I'm just using this term because it's easier to tell people what I am, instead of telling them, oh, I do 5 different jobs.
Relatable.
But it's true.
Yeah.
But it's
It's a
true.
good
It's
umbrella term.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's a
Yeah.
really descriptive, not a cryptic term, and not everybody knows how to define it.
Yeah, but I think what you said about doing things with technology and then always in a creative context actually makes a lot of sense. That's the first time I've heard it described that way. And yeah, I think that's easy for people to picture something.
Yeah.
So so you said you did graphic design. So did you study that, or did you just study something else? Okay. And where did you do that, and what was that like?
So for from some reason, I decided to study in Linz instead of Vienna.
Okay.
You know,
There's so much Linz-related content lately.
like maybe for listeners, the difference and size, Vienna is like 2 million people, and Linz I think is like 100K.
I think 200 by
Roughly,
now.
or 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 200K, but that's the dimension differences, and I decided to go for a smaller city. But basically,
That's unusual.
yeah, I mean, it was just I think I just went for it because they were the only university that offered graphic design and photography as a combined study. So you do 3 years and you can study both together. And I was like, cool, why not do it? The alternative on the market was Angewandte, and Angewandte had only magisters, so not a real bachelor title yet. So I was like, if I plan to study abroad or doing a master somewhere else, it's probably not profitable to have a magister as a title. So I was like, also that's one reason more why I didn't go for the Angewandte. But also the timings of the application forms were overlapping. So I just went for the one that accepted me first.
Love that. And after studying, did you start in an agency or did you go immediately freelance?
Oh, before I think before we get to this, I mean I studied graphic design, but before that I did a like high school for IT and economics. So there's this Austrian type of school called Höhere Technische Lehranstalt, so higher technical educational facility, I would say. And you know, you train more industrial jobs, like how the other ones called in English, like jobs where you need engineers and construction, and they all usually have a department for IT. And I went for IT school because I wanted to become a game designer or a game developer. And since there are no game positions back in the days, or there was no position at all, I was like going for the next closest thing. But IT school was not as exciting as I hoped for. So then I started photography, and during photography, I discovered online that there's a job called visual jockeying. Like you're doing live visuals for music events. And I was so intrigued by the term that I just asked a friend, hey, do you know any friends who are throwing any parties and need some visuals for the parties? And he was like, sure, let me ask some friends. And then like the first evening, we already got our projector with us and we went to some party and played some visuals. Like, so I don't know if you guys know the term live visuals, VJing.
I didn't know the term, but I know what you're talking about in terms of the projections when there's like, for example, a concert and you have like the visuals in the background. It's that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like what's happening on the bigger festivals in the US, also Lollapalooza and all the electronic festivals where you have a little big LED walls behind them and somebody's playing some videos. And I basically discovered that back in the days, maybe 2011, around this time, and I was like so intrigued into this medium that I decided to just start it. And from doing this for several years for drum and bass and then electronic music events, I really got more into doing graphic design. But it also helped that I had a technical background because during this time back then I had to do animation. I had to do some setup, building up the station, like how to connect a computer to a projector that is 10 meters in on the ceiling, and then all the cables and a lot of like all this technical, organizational, like all the stuff that's involved in a concert project or like a music project. And I think that really helped going forward in my career, like doing everything afterwards, because I basically trained before I even knew what I wanted to do.
So did you end up doing graphic design after that experience doing the visuals? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And then once you finished the graphic design studies in Linz, where did you go from there?
First, my plan was to go to London. So I even applied doing Erasmus for London. I wanted to go either for URL, so United University of the Arts London, or I think alternatively Willem de Koninklijke, I think in Rotterdam, something like in general, like Netherlands would intrigue me. But in the end, because nothing worked out, because their applications didn't got accepted, I just decided to go to Vienna. Like, don't waste any time and just try something out. Move to the biggest city first and see if I can then maybe go abroad or do something else.
Okay, and then what happened? You moved to Vienna and you started working. So back to my first question. You started working as in an agency, or what did that look like in Vienna?
So in the beginning, I went for internships because I think it's the easiest way to get a sense of how companies work without really having a real commitment. Like, you don't have to stay like for a year or 2 years. You just stay for half a year and then you can decide either do you want to stay or do you move on. And basically I went for the first job that I can get as an intern, just to get a sense of finding some placement in the city. And from there on, I think I applied for several internships and also accepted all the internships. So they were not parallel, they were sequential. So I did one and then I was like, oh, let's try something else, and then tried something else. So I did graphic design studios, and I did a company called Media Palette, which does goes back to doing projection mapping and live events. So I was like, oh, I wanted to know how the big guys are doing this business. And that was basically all the stuff I did in the beginning, like internships. And then I actually never accepted a job position.
Okay, so
I love that.
I went and just said, no, I'm leaving.
So I guess something about like working in that environment didn't speak to you, and you decided you wanted to be self-employed. So were the internships really just about like experience and trying out different things for you? And you always knew you wanted to be self-employed? Or did you learn that you wanted to be self-employed kind of through those experiences?
I think at the beginning, I was not sure what I wanted to do. And after the internships, I was more clear that I think it's more lucrative for my position to do self-employment instead of working for a company. Because I remembered one internship that I think, let me think. So in one internship, I did web development, I did photography, and I did graphic design, but I was paid an intern salary.
Yeah.
Classic.
And if that transitions to a full-time job, I would still get paid just one salary. And I don't want to be the person in a company who does 3 jobs for one salary long term.
Yeah.
That's good
So-
strategic thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, you have to be conscious about what you can deliver to the company and what's your self-worth. And also, I think the question also you ask is, do you want to spend in an agency for years doing the same kind of jobs that you currently doing as an intern? Like the interns give you a sense of what scope of work you're dealing with, and if the scope of work doesn't change afterwards, you have to ask yourself, do you want to stay to do these kinds of jobs or continue to do these kinds of jobs, or do you want to move on? And basically in all those positions, I realized that I want to move on because I haven't tried out all kinds of jobs yet. And one studio itself cannot give me all the opportunities that I hope for. Especially I was working mostly with, I mean, all of the companies have grown in the meantime, but I think they are still small compared to the companies I wish I have started with. If I applied for as an intern for Buck, for example, in New York, like, I don't know, they have like 5-6 studios in the world. They are probably over 100 people. That would be a different scope, or not a different scope, but a different challenge to me than working for a small studio. So the kind of jobs they can get are totally different from the kind of jobs you get in a small local company.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, then when you started out freelancing, was that like a scary, I know that it came to you kind of naturally after the internships, but still, was it like a scary next step for you? Like starting the business, getting clients? How did you start out?
I think being a freelancer was never an issue because I did this whole thing as a high schooler, doing all the parties with some friends. So it was already like a learning experience, not solo learning experience. It was already a learning experience with friends. So it was not really an issue to get started into freelancing. But I think then really like creating a company, like for my own, and then starting to realize you have to pay taxes to the government, you have to pay your own medical, like your own social security, and the social security increases with your income. It was like, oh, now suddenly I have expenses that I have to take care of, and they are only growing by the year. So that was frightening. It didn't affect my part of being freelancing. It just this becoming an adult. That part was more frightening. Like suddenly, like, oh, hey, we want to see some money. Hey, it's the government. That was that was more scary. That was
relatable.
More scary.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, because freelancing sounds like a side hustle, but the thing is, when you are actually making money with it, it has to be a legitimate business that you have to register, and as soon as you register it, you have all of these people who want money from you.
Yeah.
A lot of money from you.
Yeah, and in Austria it's a lot comparative to other
But
countries.
it's not a lot in the beginning. It's only a lot if you reach a certain scope.
Yeah.
Then
But the thing is, when you reach that scope is kind of what you would want to be making, I would say. I mean, as soon as you start making real money and being able to, and you're able to live off of that, that's when it starts to get expensive. But if you're not making that, it almost doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Or also the aspect of staying constant. Like the years afterwards where you're already earning a lot, they are the hardest, because suddenly you're realizing you have to stay afloat in the same level of income, because then you see that the costs from the government, they don't decrease as fast. They are just coming, 1 year afterwards, 2 years afterwards, and you're realizing, I'm not working anymore. Why I'm getting still bills from the government?
It's
I think
worst.
that's the worst. That's the worst.
We had some bad experiences with that, where we made too much money one year and then we had to pay the price for that the next year. That was uncomfortable.
That's why I always spend your money on your equipment. And
that we were trying, but it just exceeded. I don't know. It was like really also
You can
on.
only buy so many laptops before they're gonna be like, how many laptops does one person need?
Yeah. I mean, you're not spending on smaller items. As a laptop, at some point, is just a small item. You have to spend on real items, or find a way how to scale a company with excess money. But
That's also an interesting topic.
But in an early stage, you're
delve
not thinking
into.
about. Yeah, I mean,
And when you're one person, I think you're not even thinking about that yet.
No.
So one
Yeah.
thing that we noticed on your portfolio, which was probably the most like thing that stood out to us, was that you worked for Spark AR at Meta.
Not work at their
Like,
place. I was
yeah, you
working with them, so I had like
so you were a contractor hired by them, right?
yeah.
Okay. Could you tell
had
us
like
what that was like?
I had like a partner agreement with them.
Okay.
Okay. And what was your role in that project? Well, first of all, what is that project? Because I don't think everyone knows what it is. And also,
Yeah.
what was your role in it?
So yeah, maybe short background to Spark. Yeah, Instagram, or maybe to the most early beginning thing. So Snapchat, I think 2017, 18, they brought out their own filters first. So all the mask and all the like visual effects that you can project in your face. I think and if I remember correctly, Instagram was also interested about acquiring or doing the same. And at the same time, they were interested. There was a company called Masquerade. They were really early on in the app market, and I think they were afloat for several months, and then they got bought by Meta. I mean, Facebook back then, and they turned it to AR Studio. Back then in 2018 was still AR Studio, and it was closed beta till early 2019. Then it became, no, it was still closed beta. So till 2020, 2021, it was still like a closed beta, and people could apply so they can create filters for Instagram. So instead of just doing it on Snapchat, you can now provide it to a much bigger audience on Instagram. And it's basically a small game engine where you can bring in 2D, 3D assets, you can bring in small animations, and you can just create funny or like small games with it. I think the world was really open back then, 2019, in a level of potential it had. I think the ease of use was really interesting for all the people, because so many people who had no experience with anything game engine or like creative software were suddenly in the software really easily in, and could easily build something from like the modules that are provided, because core features like face tracking, eye tracking, or like tracking the image was already provided by the software. So you could just basically activate the face tracker and project your own illustration on the face of a person. That was really fascinating, and it provided so many new opportunities, and people were really like experimental in the beginning and really excited of this platform. I think then the release to the public during pandemic made really a change to the platform, because suddenly it was also about follower growing and about commercial projects.
So what was your role in that project? Or first of all, actually, how did you even get to be involved in that?
Yeah. The thing is, I got into it by accident, because I was working on a branding project with a friend of mine, and we pitched a project idea to a client, like a whole project plan, and with the whole project bundle price. And we were also thinking about, let's try to implement this whole augmented reality thing on Instagram into the campaign. So during the pitching or doing the planning, I was like, oh, let's apply for it first, because it was still closed beta in 2019. I was like, okay, let's sign up for it first. Let's see when it goes live. And we finished the project pitch, or the price offer, and the client ghosted us. And because they ghosted us, we were like, okay, I don't know what we should do now. And then I got an email of like, hey, you got accepted. Do you want to build some filters on Instagram. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? So I just tested some ideas. And I think either my third or fourth idea was going viral at the time. So you can imagine I had like 2,000 followers back then in 2019. And then it grew over 30K in a month, something in a month,
huge.
In a month
because
or
of the
two.
filter that you created for Spot.
Yeah,
Wow.
just because of one filter that went live, and I guess Instagram or Facebook was watching creators at the time, like actively, and they were seeing my work, and then I got one random day, I got an email like, "Hey, do you wanna come to London, visit our office, and have a hackathon with us?" Question mark. And I was like, is that real? So I asked a friend of mine who has been working with Facebook on other projects in the past before. I was like, hey, is that real? Are they really doing this? And he was like, yeah, this looks legit. So I was like, okay, sure. And then I jumped on the plane, went to London, and met, I think they invited 100 people from around the world. So it was the ever first big get together of creators doing AR filters back in the day.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, a majority of they stayed in the field, but it was crazy. Like, I think for everybody it was like such a unique experience to have a hackathon for something so, so new and small, and people were not expecting that. But it was a really exciting experience, and I only made second place on the hackathon with my team, so everybody had to get
one. Only.
in the beginning, everybody was like into winning.
Yeah.
Especially hackathons are like built that way.
Yeah. But no, in the end of the day, it was a really great event. Everybody was really happy. Hackathons are always stressful. You have only like 72 hours max. Not, and that includes the sleeping time, if you ever sleep.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it was really stressful because everybody was in 5-people teams, and you can imagine with 100 people, it's quite a lot of teams. And the one room they rented for our hackathon was just getting tiny at some point, and it was getting sweaty, and like I can't stay inside anymore. But yeah, but I feel like, I can't say for sure, but I feel like this hackathon was really like one of the defining points where I like felt, well, there's a change happening. There's like an ambitions in the room. There's an interest from the company itself to do more. And yeah, and so basically this hackathon brought me closer to Meta, but I feel like the pandemic maybe has given it this extra push that it got in the end. I think it probably would have taken longer maybe, but yeah, that's how then I basically ended with Meta in the beginning or somewhere in the middle of 2020.
Okay. And what was your role exactly?
Yeah. So my role was, how much can I say? So my role was basically, I could talk to the product teams on the features they released and like give them feedback. I could test beta versions of software. I got invited to the office, not in London, but the one in Silicon Valley.
Oh, nice.
So that was the biggest highlight. So was it? Yeah, 2 years ago, 2023. Yeah, they invited us to Silicon Valley, to their headquarters. That was the biggest highlight. And yeah, and what else was there? The times. I think I'm really. I think I lost the times of pandemics, like what happened back then. But I feel like, a lot of sessions, a lot of online talks, like a lot of discussions, and also a lot of opportunities, like working with agencies, a lot of working with brands directly, and also experiments, like thinking on new ideas. That was basically a big margin of the partnership, like thinking on stuff that, who knows, maybe never sees the light of day, but was exciting. I mean, I think there was a lot of like innovation happening, and it was really cool to be part of that.
So when you, after the hackathon, and then you were, I guess, then working regularly with Meta, was it to continue to build filters and similar like a creative output, or was it more like testing and consulting and conceptual stuff going on?
So back then, so afterwards, I was not only working for them, I was also working still as a freelancer for independent clients on AR filters. I worked with Meta on some campaigns, but there was also a good mix of other jobs coming in from other places, because I think social media was really going through the roof back then, and I was working with various German companies. Even sometimes one job I even got because they were asking in some Facebook group, and I don't know, I was not even there. It was even a friend who was in this group who sent me the email. And I just replied this email. I just sent to this email, "Hey, you guys are searching for an AI creator," and basically that's how I got the job.
I love that.
They didn't even ask for a portfolio. They were just so in deadline that they needed somebody solving it, that it took the first person. And because I took this last minute job, I had several jobs afterwards with the same company, but with
so
more advanced time. But this one was just like, oh, there were a lot of opportunities lying around, and you were just basically saying yes to everything.
I can imagine there aren't that many, or at least back then there weren't that many people who had experience in building stuff with AR. So
even after 4 years, there were not enough people. I think in Vienna there were probably 3 people doing stuff.
A good niche to have.
Yeah,
let's say maybe 5 people were maybe active. The majority were me and another guy, and the rest were probably mostly working in agencies from people who had already background with either game design or some other path, so they could work with it. But I think in the end, just 4 people stuck around.
Wow. Okay. That's not a lot. Are you still in the field of AR? Because we read that Spark AR closed its doors, basically closed its operations rather abruptly. How are you affected by that? Maybe first of all, how are you affected by that? And like emotionally and also strategically, what did that mean for you when they closed?
Yeah. So just for the listeners to know, so the Spark platform closed on January 14th. And we had 4 or 5 months advance, like they announced in advance that they are closing off the platform. So there was time to transition, but it probably took half a year until I really realized the impact it had on me, and how much it meant that this platform was actually really closing down, because it was such a crucial part in the last 5 years. So it was a shame that they had to leave in this way, and there wasn't really not really any like goodbye event or any like really like debrief happening. It was really like, yeah, it's shutting down. Bye. That really sucked. But I feel like right now I'm realizing much more how much it had an impact on the economy of AR, because basically the biggest platform went away and majority of people just lost interest, because companies mostly asked, hey, could we release this on Instagram? If it's not on Instagram, I'm not sure if we're even gonna want to do it anymore, because I think brands are different about TikTok still, and Snapchat is not relevant in the majority of Europe. I mean, if I was American, it would be easier, but being in Europe, Snapchat I think never really gained this relevancy for brands. Like working for creatives or influencers is a different thing, but for brands, it's really difficult.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can imagine that it leaves a big impact and maybe like a hole. But since that closed down, have you been thinking of shifting gears to a different direction, or where are you at right now?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot, and also exploring other fields. And last year I was much more an enemy of AI, I would say. maybe not enemy, but I was really critical about AI. And I feel like this year my opinion has changed, because I feel like now the topic has become so relevant that you cannot ignore the reality that you have to work with it. And you have to understand your enemy to better deal with it, basically. So yeah, I'm approaching the topic of AI, but I'm more interested into maybe building more custom tools for clients. So approaching another niche in the niche, I'm interested in work process improvements, or maybe building tools that can improve a creative's work instead of replacing them. And it's more about using AI in an advanced way instead of just using an image generator to create visuals.
Yeah. Where do you see AI in the creative industry? Like, because you said that you were approaching it quite negatively. I mean, first of all, what were the reasons for that? Because I feel like I share the same sentiment. And yeah, I'm just super curious to hear from your perspective.
I think in the beginning was probably the lack of quality it provided, something that's really like consistent that you can use in a campaign level. And also the faces and a lot of items were really too repetitive. Like you were starting to see patterns. You were starting to see like not patterns in a clear way, but you felt the images were AI generated. And I didn't expect that the leverage since then, like the quality jump they did, and also the jump to video, the amount of videos that are out now that are fooling people. That's crazy. And I nearly got fooled by one video. I don't know if you guys remember the one with the kangaroo with the boarding ticket.
No,
Like there was a
that sounds crazy.
Oh, then you
Okay.
guys missed it. I have to send you the later on.
Yes,
It's
please.
a woman. It's a woman waiting with her kangaroo in the entrance of of the plane. You know, this one corridor in front of the plane, and the woman is discussing questions with the stewardess, and the kangaroo is in the middle with a kind of sad face, with a ticket in his hand, waiting like quietly. And everyone was like, "Oh no, this poor kangaroo! Why can't it go to on board and stuff?" Like it was so random, but it was like it was so good. It was so good you couldn't see it, but it was like, you know, it was maybe 10 seconds. It was a perfect real format video. People were fooled easily. There was nothing
That's so
that really
scary.
That is scary. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are fooled who are not like designers or photographers who don't pay attention to details. I think a lot of people are fooled by AI. What do you see AI, or I feel like a lot of people are talking about like AI replacing creatives. Do you think that's realistic, or do you think that's not going to happen?
Yeah, I think being this whole part about creators being replaced was also a critic point for me last year. But I'm just realizing people who can, you know, pay $20 for a subscription. If they're gonna be cheapskates, they're gonna be cheapskates. So somebody's always getting replaced, and I know which kind of designers will get replaced. The ones who do the more, say, repetitive task of like doing flyers and brochures that are really like that can be automated. But somebody who creates the branding for a client, you cannot replace them, because the majority of time you're not doing the design. The majority of time is you're figuring out what the client wants, because the client doesn't know which question to ask themselves, how to decide on things. And I think that will also change more. There will be a machine that does the branding for you, that could do like probably 90% of the work. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to explain to you how the branding works, like how to use it in the world. Because at the end of the day, the machine doesn't know what a human wants, and if it hits the real timing. So a human needs to tell the brand how this thing works, how to use it, and how to progress with it. Like a design is also something that doesn't really, like, not a small design, like a branding doesn't sleep. It evolves over time, and you have to go with the time. So something, all this part about, you know, about not exploring, but about following the trends or like evolving something. I think a lot of this cannot be taken over by an AI. But I'm afraid still about the pricing consequences of introducing AI into the work, because those sayings of like, oh, I can do that too, are suddenly becoming real, because it's not just like, oh, somebody has to open a program and do the same. No, they can just put it into an AI and just prompt out the final product. And if you look at websites, basically, I think next year people can build the websites on their own without any issues. I mean, we are already nearly there. I don't know if you have seen any of those website generator comparisons with AI, like where they test multiple softwares against each other with the same prompt to see which of these AIs does the prompt better. And
The comparison, no,
Yep.
but I've seen tools and it's kind of
Yep.
scary. Like coming from an industry of web development and web design, these are not great prospects for the industry.
But again, like you said, it will replace a certain type of web designer, and not like if you're somebody who's already using no code tools, for example, and you're offering that as a service, I think that service will not be needed anymore, because a client would be able to just prompt an AI, for example, to create the website themselves, or your service would change to, instead of being the one to design everything, you're the one prompting the AI to do the work for you. And I think that it does have potentially consequence when it comes to the price, because probably prompting an AI to do it would not take as long.
Yeah, scary times.
So,
That's not there yet.
Not there yet,
That's
but who knows?
That's the good. I mean, that still takes time, because I think what we all forget is that how complex a website really is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not just this easy peasy 2D interface. It's so much behind the scenes that you have to still discuss. I mean, that gives me hope that this field won't get replaced easily.
I think the more complex work, probably not for a long time. I mean, at least our experience with AI, it's not even close to being able to replace.
Yeah. But everything that is just a visual website, portfolios, and all the like visual candy effects that are actually then at the end of the day on a W Awards or all of those platforms, they are probably still getting replaced by an AI, because some of them are really not the best paid ones, but they are more beautiful jobs. You will probably see that a lot of them maybe are generated by AI in the future. And that's maybe something that people will not like, because some of the cool jobs are gone, because now you can do them with some AI. Like commercial websites are difficult to build, because they are just 10% front end, and then there's a huge back end that needs to work with other fields. That will not get replaced easily, because there's no AI knowledge about this. Like the old backend work is so not written down or not so available on the internet that's easy to replicate. But the front end, it's so easy to replicate that I'm really questioning which direction the web will move. But the major hope I have is that, I don't want to say that, but people are basically dumb and they need somebody to explain things for them on the web.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. And I also think that especially strategic thinking, especially working with maybe more corporate clients, working with maybe like with really small clients, but they usually don't have a huge budget anyways. So it was always like a bit of a struggle, I would say. So I guess those jobs will probably be eliminated at some point.
Yeah, or you just do them using AI.
Exactly.
I do agree that clients still need consulting. They still need someone to tell them how to use it, how to put the content in and stuff like that. And I don't think that can really go away, because the client, like you said, something really important that you said earlier was asking the right questions and knowing what they need and being able to answer questions. That's something that we do. It's part of our job, is to guide them through that. And that's something an AI wouldn't be able to do, because they wouldn't know. You would have to prompt it to do that. And I don't think a client would even know how to do that, probably. So
yeah. But that's the point now. let's discuss it next year, and it's probably done.
Okay, let's have like a follow-up of this.
Yeah, definitely. The AI thing is changing so fast.
Yeah, it's like I actually have two questions. I mean, I'm trying to be mindful of time because we're already 45 minutes
I'm fine.
in.
I'm fine. with that.
Wait, I actually have like two questions.
Yeah.
One is looking back to Spark AR, it closing down. It's maybe more of like a pretty personal question, but financially speaking, what did that mean for you? And was it like scary to pivot, scary to sit there and think, okay, what am I doing now? Yeah, basically, what did it mean for you and for your business?
You mean when it ended? You mean
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's the biggest part of realization right now, that I'm like maybe losing a majority of income sources, because the clients don't need me for other jobs anymore, or they can't use me in other places anymore, to fill those jobs. Yeah, the good thing is that I'm not using too much resources, like financial resources, on a daily basis or a monthly basis, that I would say that it's frightening right now. I would say that I will have probably some time where I will maybe eat up more, like from my bank account, but it's probably not going into reserves that I'd say, oh, I'm really like struggling with it. But I'm also working on new projects, so probably that's just a normal, uh, like low times that you have as a creative. I mean, there's always some low times. I always had some low times in the past, and it's good to have a break also, like really like to have a quiet time, so you can really like rethink, do I want to stay in this field, or do I want to do something new? And I felt like maybe the 5 years was appropriate, and it was really a time to move on and do something else, because if you just stay in one discipline, you're just good in one thing, and then I'm not a creative technologist or anything anymore. I'm just an AI creator, and I probably don't want to be this my whole life. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm still okay at the moment, but it definitely, I'm just realizing of the last several months that I maybe a whole year I wouldn't be good.
Mm-hmm.
But several months, it's fine. I'm just doing something else. I'm just chilling in the meantime. I mean, because
love that for you.
I mean, the thing is, the last resort can still be going back to a company, still work for a company.
Yeah, of course.
Because I haven't done it yet. Yeah, because I haven't done it yet. And I feel like a lot of companies would like to work with me because I have worked with them before.
That's a really nice outlook. Like to have like some backup plans, but have like plans moving forward. I think that's extremely important. So you don't stay like stagnant and don't stay like in the scary place of, okay, what's happening now? Like instead of things happening to you, you make things happen, basically.
Yeah, I also agree about the downtime. I think downtime can be good, can be positive. And also it's normal to have that as a creative. I mean, that's just the nature of project work. Sometimes you have a lot, sometimes you don't. And it's always good to kind of think about if what you're doing is what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
I resonate a lot with
Yeah, me too. I was like, I feel like we're like having similar experiences and similar thoughts. It's super interesting. And I want to like keep going, but we are like, we reached our time limit. So let's just focus on the final question. We have this final question for all of our guests.
So we ask everyone because we invite people who are self-employed and have done freelancing. So if you could go back and tell your past self something about being self-employed or about something maybe that could have helped you back then, just any advice you would give to someone starting now, what would you say about being self-employed, running a business?
Get a tax advisor early, maybe? Oh, it's a difficult one. Because also the landscape of being self-employed has changed quite a lot, and a lot of things you cannot do on your own. It's really, I think it's a little bit difficult to move on as a freelancer on your own. I think maybe it's good to, similar to what I did in the beginning, maybe check out some internships, try to work for a company for some time. Or I also like but I helped out as a digital operator for photographers in the past. That's also something people can do to get a sense of how do other photographers work, how can you assist them, and how it lessens the fear or the scary part about being self-employed and seeing everybody's cooking with the same frying pans. And I think being self-employed takes a lot of like bravery, and you need to not conquer, but you have to challenge your fear, because I think the biggest part in the beginning is a lot of fear about all the unknown things that will come in the process. But I mean, you have really to approach them with some openness and really challenge the fear, and maybe also till you can conquer the fear, because the fear can hold you back, but it's also your biggest motivator. It's something I'm also seeing right now. I think this downtime feels like also like a new beginning, where I'm also frightened, where I have like sometimes negative thoughts, but this is the only time where you go into some creative survival mode, and you're like challenging yourself. Okay, how can I move on forward now, and how I can work again, how I can create something for myself, and talk to a lot of people. Share your ideas with other people. I think the faster and better you can find a community and peers, that helps you to being easy in this field. Because we cannot forget, we are like a gang of wolves, and a wolf cannot survive on its own. Something like that, That's
I love the sentiment.
No, it's
I
really...
mean, more time passes, it becomes more clear that we cannot survive on our own.
Yeah, we share the same sentiment. Like, we're doing community building for creatives. We're really trying to get everyone together in this field to help each other out, to share experiences. I mean, this is one platform where we share experiences, where our guests share their experiences and perspectives. And it's like there's always like this red thread almost, like of similar experiences and perspectives, but it's still so interesting to hear you're not alone. Yeah, it was amazing to hear your perspective and about your life and your work. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah,
thank you again for being here, and we really enjoyed listening to everything you had to say, and I think it's going to be really valuable for our audience as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was an exciting talk. I mean, it's always cool to talk about like experiences are probably shared by a lot of same-minded people. But you also need to hear those similar messages to maybe bring you out of a negative point in your life, because you're seeing you're not struggling on your own. There's some people who experience the same, and if you feel lost and you need questions, you can maybe approach this person. I think everybody is willing to talk about their own experiences, and everybody's also a little bit shy and introverted, so just ask, I think. And it comes back to this point of like talk to people, share your angst, share your fears, share your worry, and it gets easier if you share it with other people.
Definitely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Never Went to Business School. Don't forget to follow us here on Spotify, and if you enjoy our content, check out our YouTube channel for more educational videos, and subscribe to our newsletter on Substack.